YouTube, what is going on? Your boy Young Mustard is back with another video, and today I'm here with the second parter in my disappointment slash surprises series. And today we are going to talk about 5 players who have been big surprises in the 2018 NBA season. Now before we start this video, I think you all should know that I did make my part 1 of this where I talked about the 5 biggest disappointments. So if you guys have not seen that, I suggest that after this video you go see it. I will put a card at the end of the video, and I'll put a little annotation on the screen so you guys can go check it out. You can see how big of surprises these players are live with the SeatGeek app. SeatGeek is an app that takes tickets from all over the web and puts them in one place that makes buying easy. They score every ticket from 1 to 10 to make sure you're getting the best deal. You can view the seats from the app that lets you know where you're going to sit, and also make sure you click on the link in the description and enter the code MUSTARD for $20 off on your first purchase. Make sure you do that after this video. Now let's get on with this video, because these players have not only proven the haters wrong, but they've improved in more ways than one. Now without further ado, let's get on with the first player. Now the first player we're going to talk about is Dwight Howard, because I think a lot of people are sleeping on how great Dwight Howard has been this season. He's averaging one of his better offensive years since he left Orlando. He's averaging 16 points, 12 rebounds, and just under 2 blocks a game, while shooting 56% from the field. And I think one of the better things about Dwight Howard this year is that people had just kind of given up hope on him, especially after what the Hawks had said about him. Reports coming out that he just isn't a good team player, is that a lot of teammates just don't like him and things like that. But this season he has drastically improved in a lot of the areas that he has lacked consistently ever since he left Orlando. Scoring has not been a problem at all, even though I know he has had the ball a bit more often than he has ever since he left Orlando, but he's just been an amazing scorer at that position. I mean, aside from a select few big men in the Eastern Conference, actually you could even argue in the league, because aside from players such as Cat, Anthony Davis, and DeMarcus Cousins before he went down, and also Kevin Love, can't forget him, no one has really done better at the big man position when it comes to scoring than Dwight Howard. And I think that's something that we have to look into when it comes to the case of Dwight Howard being a surprise this season, because Dwight Howard, thank God he didn't try to grow a 3-point shot, because that's probably one of the biggest reasons why the Hawks did trade your ass. I mean, thank God he didn't do that. But I think Dwight Howard has improved significantly and just shown more effort and more drive this season, simply because 1, it is a contract year, and 2, a lot of people were even debating if he was a Hall of Famer, which is just ridiculous in my opinion, because he clearly has enough accolades and enough things to his resume that can put him in the Hall of Fame. In his prime, he was one of the best centers and one of the most dominant centers that we had ever seen, probably since Shaq. So we have to give Dwight Howard his props when it's due, and I'm so glad that he is balling out this season. Much love to Dwight Howard. Now the next player that we're going to talk about has to be Lou Williams, because I think a lot of people are really understanding how great Lou Williams has been as a 6th man for numerous years. And I think it's arguable that he should have made the All-Star game this year, especially considering the fact that he's been leading the Clippers as the best player on that team. Even when Blake Griffin was there, he was performing at a higher level than Blake. Yes, I just said that. If you don't know that, go check out that last video I posted. But he has been leading this team to wins, and they are in the playoff hunt as we speak. They are fighting for that 8th to 7th seed. Actually, it's all the way up to the 3rd seed, because from the 3rd seed to the 10th seed, basically the Western Conference is wide open for anyone's taking. But Lou Williams this year has been the sole reason why the Clippers are afloat in this playoff hunt, because honestly, when you look at all the injuries that the Clippers have had, especially at that point guard position, with injuries to Milos, also with injuries to Patrick Beverley, also with injuries to Austin Rivers, it's just really tough to look at Lou Williams and say, dang, like, how great of a 6th man are you? And arguably he could be the greatest 6th man that we have seen in history, because this year he's averaging 23 points, 5 assists, just under 3 rebounds, while putting up really solid shooting splits of 44% from the field, also about 36 to 37% from 3, and shooting around 87% from the free throw line. This is a 6th man who is the best player that is facilitating the most assists on the team and is balling better than a lot of starters, not only at his position but in the league in general, because Lou Williams is a top 50 player in this league. After this season, there is no doubt in anyone's mind that he's at least a top 50 player this year. He has been phenomenal, and when you look at some of these games and some of these performances, it is just ridiculous. In a performance against Washington in December, he dropped 35 points, also 8 assists, while shooting 55% from the field, 50% from 3, and 90% from the free throw line. Also in another performance against Houston where they won by 10, he dropped 32 points, 7 assists, also had 3 steals, while shooting around 47 to 48% from the field, around 64% from 3, and 83% from the free throw line. And we all know the infamous performance against the Golden State Warriors in January where he dropped 50 points, 7 assists, while having another crazy shooting splits performance of 59% from the field, 50% from 3, and 100% from the free throw line. Lou Williams has just been phenomenal this season, and I think we all knew he was a great 6th man, but I don't think anyone thought he'd be this great, where he's leading a team to the playoffs and he's putting up all-star numbers on the way to putting himself in the conversation of being arguably the greatest 6th man in history of the NBA. If it wasn't for a man named Kevin McHale, that would be the truth. Now the next guy we're going to talk about has to be Clint Capela. Now I knew Clint Capela was good, but he is playing at such a level that I think he can be an all-star next year and possibly even make an all-NBA team, as they do reward centers such as DeAndre Jordan and even Rudy Gobert with all-NBA selections when they're on winning teams. So when it comes to Clint Capela this season, I believe he has played at an all-star level. This year he's averaged 14 points, which is more than last season, which was around 12.5. Also 11 rebounds, which is about 3 more than last season, which was at 8. And he's shooting 65% from the field, which is leading the league. And when you look at the minutes he's playing, he's only playing 27 minutes a game. I mean, if he was playing at least 30 minutes a game, you could argue that he would be an all-NBA player without question. And when you look at his per 36, which is something I don't really like to pull up, but it is realistic in the case of Clint Capela, his per 36 is 19 points, 14 rebounds, and we all know the efficiency is still the same. And when it comes to his blocks, he's been blocking shots left and right, as he's averaging around 2 blocks a game. Clint Capela, in my opinion, if they let him at least get around 30 to 34 minutes, he could be a defensive player of the year candidate just like that, because defensively he's balling, offensively he's improved, and he scores basically every time he touches the ball, as he leads the league in field goal percentage, 2-point percentage, as well as effective field goal percentage as well. Now I know there are holes in his game, such as the fact that he's not great with the ball. Sometimes he does turn it over from time to time, but when you look at the fact that he has someone like James Harden and Chris Paul, he is in such a great position to where he can put himself in the conversation of the top 10 centers in the league. And I believe honestly that he's already put himself in that conversation, because he's already a top 10 center in the league. He's a candidate for most improved player of the year, and not only has he improved on the offensive side of the ball, but he has helped the Rockets catapult to the defensive side as well, because I know Chris Paul has been balling not only on the offensive side of the ball, but he has been locking up on that defensive side as well. But we cannot overlook the fact that Clint Capela in the paint has been dominant. I mean, when you look at some of the performances that Clint Capela has had against some of the other top big men in the league, it has been outstanding. I'm not going to put them on the screen, but you can see that Clint Capela, his defensive presence on the Rockets, it has been felt, and I think we need to give him his props when it comes to that side as well, because I know he has improved on the offensive side of the ball, but defensively, given the opportunity, he can be a defensive player of the year. Not just a candidate, but I believe he can win it all. Now the next guy that we're going to talk about has to be Victor Oladipo, because I think Victor Oladipo, we all have come to the realization that he has been a phenomenal player this season and has performed at an all-NBA level, as he had so many expectations last year, to the point that when he was traded in the Paul George trade to Indiana, a lot of people assumed that Indiana lost the trade and that Victor Oladipo was basically a lost cause. Now the reason I do believe Victor Oladipo struggled, or should I say didn't live up to the expectations that people set on him in Oklahoma, was because the Oklahoma City Thunder were clearly trying to get Russell Westbrook the MVP, so he was basically a spot-up shooter, so Russell Westbrook could, inflate some of those assist numbers, as it was shown in his 3-point attempts and his percentages being the best that they ever were, because he basically was shooting a lot of threes. So when it comes to Victor Oladipo last season in Oklahoma, that explains why he was never really able to shine and show this potential that he is now in Indiana, and boy is he showing that potential. Everything has increased, from points to steals, assists, rebounds, efficiency, and even free throw percentage. And you would think that the efficiency would take a dip, especially with him being the #1 option instead of being the #2 option, but no, it's actually gone up, as it's at a career high, as this season he's averaging just around 23 to 24 points per game, 5 rebounds as well as 4 assists. He leads the league in steals with about 2, and also about a block a game. Meanwhile, he's shooting 80% from the free throw line, around 37, just around 36% from 3, and 47% from the field. Victor Oladipo this season has been a monster, and I also want to mention that he's been clutch. He hit the game winner against San Antonio, also hit the game winner against Cleveland, and this guy's just shown up time after time after time. And I think we all have to come to the realization that Victor Oladipo, if he is at least not a superstar, he has to at least be a star. Now the playoffs are going to come around, and hopefully Victor Oladipo can redeem himself from the disappointing performance of last season. But I have no doubt in my mind that if he can improve in the regular season, and Victor Oladipo is the player that I think he is, then I think that he can improve in the postseason as well, and he has to be a lock for the most improved player of the year. Now the last final person we're going to talk about is going to be Jamal Murray, because I think a lot of people are sleeping on the improvement of Jamal Murray this season, as he has put himself at least in the conversation, and if it wasn't for Victor Oladipo, he arguably could have won the most improved player of the year this season, as this season all of his numbers offensively has jumped across the board. Last season in his rookie year, a lot of people viewed it as a disappointment, as he averaged just under 10 points a game on 40% field goal shooting, 33% shooting from 3, as well as 88% shooting from the free throw line. But this season he has jumped in all those categories, as he's averaging 16 points per game, shooting just under 39% from 3, 46% from the field, as well as shooting around 90 to 91% from the free throw line. He has been efficient in all areas, and honestly, I think if he can keep improving at this rate, he can be a 50, 40, 90 player. And I think the reason that it's been a surprise this season is because his rookie year was such a disappointment. I mean, when you think about all the things that were said about him being one of the greatest scorers coming into this draft class, John Calipari even saying that he's going to lead all of rookies in scoring, and him not even coming close to that. And I understand that all the rookies last year were kind of all disappointing, but at the end of the day, don't put expectations on a player and then be mad when they're criticized for not living up to those expectations. Point in case, Andrew Wiggins. But that's a topic for another discussion. As when you look at Jamal Murray in his rookie year, I know he was playing through some injuries in majority of that season, but those numbers were just fairly unacceptable. And honestly, when you have expectations to be the best scorer in your draft class and you can't even average 10 points on at least 42% field goal shooting, that's pretty disgraceful. So at the end of the day, he has improved in all those categories, and I understand defensively, he is a little bit rough in that area, but at the end of the day, he is someone who was brought in to be a scorer. He doesn't naturally play the 1 position anyway. He does play the 2 position, and a lot of people do need to realize he's not a point guard. He should be a shooting guard, which is why people are saying the Nuggets should have traded for Kemba Walker, which I don't know if that's the Hornets holding on to him or the Nuggets just not trying to make a run at him, but that's a topic for another discussion. Because at the end of the day, Jamal Murray has improved all across the board in his efficiency and in his scoring, and he's living up to the hype of being the great scorer that we all know he has the potential to be. Alright, so if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that thumbs up. Also, comment down below your opinions. I would like to know what you guys think about this video. If you think I left anybody out or I put anybody on this list that I shouldn't have put on here, let me know in the comment section. Subscribe if you're new, hit the bell. Also, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram, and add me on Snapchat. The links will be down below. So without further ado, this is your boy Mustard signing out. Peace.